deliberate changes, and that is important. This is a good opportunity to grow. Having direct feedback from a person in an airline to know, like, this is what a pilot likes, this is what a pilot doesn't like.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, welcome back to Ready for Pushback. I'm Nick Fialka, and today we have another fun interview. You will notice that every now and then I will bring people on that have aviation-centric products and services and things they do, side hustles. I think they're so interesting. I think people that have companies are just fascinating. And today is just like that. I have Ben Perkins from Flight Uniforms, and we are going to talk about pilot shirts. And I want you to really think back. You know Flight. And why do you know them? Because they had these hilarious viral videos of like a captain and FO with like the huge epaulets and all those things. Very funny, talking about the stretchiness and the fun of flying and why they're great. So I've been wearing that shirt for over a year now, and it's beyond my expectations. I thought it was a fantastic product. I wear it on every single flight. And I think that you should listen to it and consider it, because Flight and Spitfire are partnering up, and they are going to be participating in a lot of cool stuff with us. And so I want you to listen to the episode and find out more. A quick disclaimer. Ben is a dad, and he has a little sweet daughter, a little girl that is bouncing around, and you'll hear her in the background. And we talk about grace. So give Ben a little grace. I've got my kids and they're all bouncing around, and you'll hear them sometimes in the show. And I thought it was great. I love it. I just, a dad is a dad, and a human's a human, and a man is a man. And that's a good thing. And so I just thought I'd let you know, yep, that's on purpose. And that's there because he is taking care of her today while mom is not feeling well. And that's just life. So, here we are. I'm excited about this episode, and I hope you enjoy it as well. So sit back, relax. Let's get ready for Pushback.
Hey, pilot, don't forget, on March 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be doing a live webinar with the Director of Hiring at United Airlines. You know him, Justin Ritter. We will be answering all of your questions live. So don't forget to sign up. All of the details are in the show notes. Sign up, log in, and ask your question to Justin Ritter. I'll see you March 8th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right. Ben Perkins from Flight, Pilot Uniforms, and the company And Collar. Mr. Perkins, it's nice to meet you. It's nice to talk to you. Thanks for joining us today.
Nick, thank you for having me. I have to say, this is a little bit biased, but favorite podcast in the game. So thank you for hosting me. I'll try to live up to some of the past guests you've had. I'll probably fail, but thank you for having me.
Man, it's awesome. Thanks, dude. This is great. I am excited about this conversation today, and I'm excited to talk about just the evolution of your company, because I want to kind of tell you how I got into this. I have been wearing pilot shirts for a long, long time. And I have been, when you get hired by an airline, they give you these really cheap, thin, like hard cotton, just non-durable shirts that just are the worst. And you got to always iron them, and you got to always be on top of it. And I'm so lazy. And I used to wear another company's shirt, and it was all right. It was fine. It was nothing to write home about. But then I went to reorder shirts, and I don't know how often I do, but when I do, I'm just like, hey, I need a couple more shirts, and I put in the order, and like 4 months went by, and I hadn't got my shirt, and I got really frustrated. I was reaching out to that company and trying to get information from them and find out what's going on. I got no response. And I ended up I ended up first thinking like maybe I got scammed or something. And just right before I contacted my bank, I finally got an email back, and they sent me a paper check back with a refund, and it was just insane. So I switched over to flight because your videos had just come out, and dude, I'll never look back. It's just such a great shirt. And so I say that, and I'm going to talk more about that, but I want to are you a pilot?
I'm going to out myself before I get exposed. I'm not. I have the greatest respect for pilots, but I am not a pilot.
But you are in the garment industry, right? You do own a company that makes garments.
Correct.
How did you go down? Talk to me about End Collar and what you just developed and created, and tell me how pilot shirts come into that.
Sure. I was worried who was going to say it first. So I'll admit I'm not a pilot,
Sure.
but love pilots and grateful for all you do. So thank you.
Some people would argue that I'm not one as well. So just.
I think whatever you said, 22 years flying for the Navy, and you've at least got a track record. I've just flown on planes. I've never flown a plane. But going to how it started, similar to you and other pilots, but just as a consumer of typical white dress shirts without the epaulettes and double-breasted pockets, I had jobs and grew up, having to wear dress shirts. It's one of those things that's kind of there at every rite of passage and big milestone, that for whatever reason, society says you wear a white dress shirt. And, they can look sharp, but the idea first came when I was living in Hong Kong as a teenager. And it's hot and humid there, just like it is plenty of places around the world, I'm sure in Atlanta. And as a 13-year-old, the biggest pain point I had apparently was when my parents forced me into a dress shirt, which I described back then as like a straight jacket, where it's, it's stiff, it's wrinkly, it's uncomfortable. Adolescence and puberty was the actual problem, not the dress shirt. Hindsight's 2020. But I thought that the dress shirts were horrible. And that's right when Under Armour first came out, if you remember. And they had these turtlenecks that had the very distinctive UA that came all the way up. And I just thought, I was enamored with that fabric, this synthetic fabric that was supposed to be superior to cotton in every way. And so I was this tall American kid walking around the streets of Hong Kong, just wearing Under Armour under everything. I apologize now to my parents. I must have embarrassed them. Just looking like a total goofball. But just the fabric was awesome and it was special. And so the initial idea came for End Collar, or a performance dress shirt, just like we're seeing with Flight, in 2008. And it was called Wicka-Sweat. And I designed the logo on my family singular desktop computer back then. It was a horrible logo, but the idea was Under Armour dress shirts. Anyway, turns out my allowance didn't cover for minimum order quantities of 2,000 or 5,000 Under Armour dress shirts.
Wow.
And so kicked that can down the road. Then I was going to school. I was playing, soccer for the University of Kentucky. And I was like, I tell people it was basketball. That's much more glamorous, but it was soccer. But the idea was still there. And I'm like, hey, I still have to wear dress shirts to, formal functions. Let's turn this thing into at least a project that I can get credit for while going to school, instead of doing, project work on Nike or Adidas or, real brands. It's like, hey, why don't I just start my own, and I can get some credit for it and do my marketing classes and business classes on my own project, with the end goal of saying, hey, if I can sell $50,000 worth of stretchy dress shirts, that should get me a real job.
That's a lot of dress shirts.
Yeah, that's a lot. If you've shopped online, it's about 1,500 back in the day. But yeah, that was the idea. So it was never supposed to be a business. I was never supposed to podcast about it. I was supposed to get it and sell it, or at least sell $50,000 worth, and then move on with a real job.
So at Kentucky, you were in a business class or a fashion industry class about, creating a project, creating something that you can, prove that you were thinking as a grown up.
That was the idea. The class was just, your standard business 3600 or marketing 3600 class. So it wasn't actually like a business creation class, which now they're coming in and I'm like, whoa, those are cool. Those are cool classes.
I know, right? Little incubators, dude. I wish I had that.
It's amazing. And so now I'm like, whoa, that's a much cooler opportunity than I had. It was just like a typical accounting class. And they said, go look at so it was between like 3 classes. So you had the accounting, marketing, and business. And each one, I remember it was all happened at the same point, that assignments were fairly similar, where it's like, go analyze a company's profit and loss statement. For the accounting. For the marketing, it was develop a 12-month marketing plan for a company of your choosing. And whatever the business management class was a similar sort of assignment. And I'm like, hey, instead of doing a separate one on each, what if I just pursue this old Wicka-Sweat idea that's kind of, knocking at the back of my head, and I can get credit for all 3. That's worst case scenario. I just get credit for starting my own business. And that was that. That was August 2017 that we launched. And it was just the singular white dress shirt and a single fit. And that year we did 30,000 in sales. So launching on Kickstarter, where you basically beg all your panhandling, you beg your friends and family, and you go on Instagram and say, hey, please buy this thing. And
listen, I'm a sucker for Kickstarter.
Oh, okay. What's your favorite thing you've ever purchased on Kickstarter?
The favorite thing, the one thing I'd never got that I wish I did, that I spent my money on, was this like Bluetooth cooler thing that didn't ever pan out. It was like
I remember that one. It was like orange. It went viral. Yeah, I remember that one. It was the coolest cooler ever. They never ended up delivering or something.
No, they never delivered. They got sued, and I never got my cooler. But I do have some really nice whiskey glasses. I have a watch. I have I'm down, man. I even bought the Pebble watch when it first came out, which is the first smartwatch.
Yeah. Well, you are, I was about to say, an early adopter.
I love early adopting.
On behalf of all people who've ever launched a project on Kickstarter, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am 1,000% behind that, because I love an entrepreneur. I love, it's also a pilot thing, right? A lot of us, everybody, we have so much time off. All of us have a side hustle. I have 4 side hustles, and this is clearly the best one. But so And Collar currently is a massive organization. You sell various different items, shirts, pants, socks, ties, jackets. I'm probably missing stuff. What else am I making? What else are you guys making? I promise we'll get to the pilot shirts, but
no. Yeah. You nailed it. I think you got most of it. The only other thing is polos. But yeah, we're still very much a white dress shirt company. That's what we're trying to be best in class at. So we've got a team of 18 now, and we just crossed 1 million units sold there. And so that's been really exciting. And again, for people, and I don't know how you feel about aviation and flying, but I imagine there's some element of love and, boyhood excitement, where I can't say I wake up dreaming about dress shirts. The whole reason I started it was because I hated dress shirts. But it has been really cool to, tackle new things, see new challenges. And I guess that's the segue into flight, where it was 2020, 2021 is when we really started to see some pretty explosive growth as we started to lean into video. So you mentioned on flight, you started to see video. Yep. We first started with And Collar and saying, hey, dress shirts suck. Excuse my language.
They do.
Let's, why don't we just kind of try to make dress shirts fun, where I think they're typically very taboo, or you never talk about them, or quoting you never write home about them.
That's right.
And it's like, who would? And so can we kind of, flip the script and get someone to write home or to write a friend about this shirt? So we started to lean into those kind of funnier videos where it's showing, pouring coffee on yourself or stretching it between two cars. And it's like, hey, this shirt is actually very cool. But it was while that was happening, we started to have a number of pilots, and it seemed like a strange number of pilots email into our customer service line unsolicited and say, hey, I'm Ryan. I'm an FO for insert airline. I've been flying for 10 years. I purchased it's very similar to what you said. I currently purchase shirts from the shirt provider. And I think it's what you said. The shirts are actually fine, but there's a horrible supply chain issue right now where we can't get anything. There were a number of JetBlue pilots who started to email in and say, it was kind of horror stories saying, hey, we're basically like tie-dyeing our shirts blue, like white shirts.
Oh, no kidding.
Blue, because no one can get a new blue jet like that, the distinctive JetBlue blue shirt that you need. And we started to get dozens, then it turned into hundreds. And it's like, you know what? Oh, and excuse me, the people that were emailing in, the pilots that were emailing in were saying, hey, can you make us a custom shirt with your same fabric? But what you need to do is X, Y, and Z. And that's where it's like, oh, you know what? I've flown on hundreds, thousands of planes. There are always those guys wearing, men or women wearing white shirts up front. That's interesting. And we started calling a bunch of them and saying, hey, can you give us 30 minutes of your time? We'll make you a custom shirt if you give us some of your time. Just tell us everything about the shirt industry for pilots. And that was all happening during 2021 mostly. And we launched Flight April of 2022.
That's awesome. And so if you've never had one of the Flight shirts in your hand, here's my experience. I've been wearing them for quite a while. And before I even knew you, I was again a little bit of an early adopter, not the most early adopter, but the fabric, the white fabric is stretchy. It's very thin. It's lightweight, and it's packable, right? It doesn't wrinkle. Here's my experience. If you throw it in the dryer and you forget about it overnight, it's going to be wrinkled. So you're going to need to throw a washcloth in there, run it for about 8 minutes, and then pull it out. It's going to be perfect. And so that's what I do. We got so many people in this house and so much unbelievable laundry. And it was awesome last night. So it's Kate's birthday today. Is Kate for the pilot that's listening, is the young lady who does the voice introduction. And today's her birthday. And last night we were making a poster, a surprise poster that we hung up in her bedroom. I promise there's a point to this. But the kids painted it. So the neighbor kids came over. My littles are over there painting this like happy birthday Kate sign. It's this huge thing. And there was a spill, and my wife's like using acrylic paint, like straight up, like really fancy paints, because she's nerds out on that stuff. And so we cleaned up this mess with a washcloth, and they threw it in the hamper. And I had just gotten home from a trip, and my Flight shirt was right there, and there was yellow paint on it, and it says, "Oh no, you got to get this out of here," and pulls it and sees my shirt. And she looks at me with this look of terror saying, "Oh gosh, this is going to be the worst." And I was like, it doesn't matter. And I grabbed it, I turned on some hot water, I rinsed it off. Good to go. And so that's that's the beauty of the synthetic material that I like. The other thing here's the thing that's really interesting. We're all different shapes. Pilots are all different shapes. And most of us are the shape of a plum, just very round. But
I love plums, for the record. I love plums.
I love plums. But then you have, I think about me, I'm cylindrical. Like I'm nothing special. But I'm not fit. Some guys my buddy Kike, right? He's big, strong, muscly Spaniard, and he's in the shape of a V, like his chest, his torso, right? Real narrow waist, big, broad shoulders. He wears flight shirt. My buddy Don, he's like, that mid-level guy. And he wears a flight shirt too, but I've met a lot of women that also, and the women have a very specific body shape. And so you have these different cuts that you're going to have to like figure out, the probabilities or the generality of that. How, talk to me about considering all these things as they go through and what you guys have been looking for, like with testing and with the evolution of your shirt. Cause you're not just like sitting idle. You didn't just create one thing. Like you're modifying and making changes and listening to feedback.
Yeah. And thank you for that endorsement. I was about to say I need to clip that. I'd use that as an ad.
Go for it. I got no copyrights. It's just me on a podcast.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would say, I wish we were pilots, and we are trying to hire a pilot to run the brand, where it's very much a community-based thing. And that's why we're trying to work with you and your group at Spitfire and, here on this podcast. But we want it to be very authentically pilot. And so, I would say that's the thing we're striving for, where any email content, we want it to be, you're actually excited to open up that email from flight, not because it's saying, hey, buy another shirt, but it's like, hey, here's the experiences of Nick from this past week, or as an example, just very pilot-centric content. Honestly, pilot-like memes where, no one else gets it. Whatever those moments that you're experiencing are, where it's like, hey, when that pilot, or excuse me, where that passenger thinks they're the one person who has to knock on the door or whatever. But whatever those pilotisms are, we really want to capture that. So I will say that's what we're striving for. And if anyone listening thinks they could be a great community manager for flight, that's something we are actively looking for. But leaving that, I would say, and I'd like to think the one thing that we really bring is that we are shirt makers. I was just saying the and color story where it's like, hey, now we've sold basically 1 million dress shirts. They're not that much. The fabric is the same. We just, threw some epaulettes and threw some eyelets on. We've been grateful for pilots for giving us feedback, because it's like, hey, I think we're close on a lot of things, but we're not pilots. So just tell us the spacing that you need on your Delta. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that spacing for wings was different between Delta and United,
or Envoy and American and Frontier and ATI, and they're all different.
Yeah, and you start to go, and it's like, oh, Southwest doesn't need eyelets. Well, that was a big miss, and so I will say we've been really grateful for pilots being as helpful as they are, because it's like, again, we want this to be a pilot brand built by pilots, just with the aid of shirt makers. So all that being said, we believe in iteration, where it's like, okay, pilots are saying we need the shirt length to be a little bit longer, because, the way that they're using and interacting with the shirts is a little bit different than our end collar customer. It's like, hey, if you're sitting down all day, but then you're getting up and down, or whatever, it's like, okay, let's, after we hear 100 pilots email in saying, hey, can you make the shirt an extra 1.5 inches in the body? It's like, okay, done. Let's iterate. Let's make it better. So that's the one thing we're committed to, where it's like, okay, we have the benefit of having sold 1 million units. So we know how to get it from the factory into your hands, and it's not going to be a 6-month delay, which is unfortunate. And, we had our growing pains too, so I'm not going to pretend. Thankfully, not as much with flight as we had with AndCollar, but it's like, hey, let's take all of the learnings from AndCollar, and now let's build a real pilot brand. So that was a long-winded way of saying, I think we can make a pretty good shirt. I'm not saying it's perfect, but with pilots' helps, we can make it perfect for pilots. And that's the end goal.
Hey, pilot, did you just get a new conditional job offer? Are you getting out of the military and going to move your family across the country? Are you going to move in base somewhere, or are you going to go out to find that second home that you've been looking for? Well, I want you to stop right now pick up the phone and call Marty and the team at Trident Home Loans. It's an organization that's run by pilots. They understand pilot pay. They understand contracts. They understand military. They have the best VA loans in the United States. Marty and his team have been doing mortgages for years. They've been doing my mortgages for years. I trust him and his team more than any other organization. I challenge you to get a better deal anywhere else. Go ahead, reach out, get a mortgage quote, and then call Marty and his team. They will walk you through the process and show you how competitive their rates are. So go right now, tridenthomeloans.com, and check them out. Timothy P. Pope is a certified financial planner dedicated to guiding professional pilots through smart financial planning. Whether it's saving for retirement, investment management, a seamless military transition, or strategic tax planning, Tim is your trusted financial partner. Also, you can join Tim as he leads engaging discussions on personal finance and strategies for professional pilots on the brand new Pilot Money podcast. Timothy P. Pope, helping professional pilots make the most out of life.
This podcast is not perfect. The things that I do are not perfect. And I listen to the feedback of the people that listen to this show because they're important to me. And that's what I hear you saying. And that's like that ability to grow and to evolve and to find, when I start, like you listen to my first, 50 episodes, you're going to hear a lot of different things versus the evolution of where I am right now. And that's the same thing. If you took the flight shirt from 2020 and put it next to 2024's flight shirt, it's a different shirt. There's a lot of variability. There's a lot of deliberate changes, and that is important. I love that. First off, I love that you're not a pilot. I don't want a pilot making my shirt because I know he's not going to be focused on it. Right? I don't. The things I trust pilots with are very few and far between. So yes, like this is a good opportunity to grow. Yes, having direct feedback from a person in an airline to be able to know, like, this is what a pilot likes, this is what a pilot doesn't like. Also, the fact that since 2016, 50% of the pilot group is brand new in every airline. Every airline, doesn't matter which one, 50% is new. And since they are new, they may be older or younger, but they have less experience and they're less set in their ways. And so that curve gets steeper over the next 4 or 5 years. And so the opportunity, I think, is there for the growth of flight and for the evolution of flight. You do have the JetBlue shirts, which I love. You have lots of cool things that you're not afraid to test something out and then get the feedback. And I've seen people give feedback. Some are positive, some are negative, and you pivot and you respond. You respond to the reviews. That is so stinking important. Like, I just can't, like, I love that because, like, I was a business owner and I responded to every single thing because I think that it's valuable. The one thing everybody knows you, even if they don't, because I haven't even brought it up. Like, you guys did the viral videos, the hilarious videos of the guy and the captain and the first officer with the just massive comical epaulets. Yeah. And they're so funny, and they're all about and then the guy and his wife, and how he's just like kind of an airhead, and she's like, "But you're so hot." Like, it's so funny. How did you guys come up? How did you decide, like, hey, we are going to be fun, we are going to be funny, and we're just going to go into professional aviation?
Yeah. When we had enough of those pilots email in, again, we never had anything on AndCaller's site that said we make pilot shirts. But when we had enough come in, it's like, okay, this is clearly a real problem where they need help just getting shirts. And it would be, I think, a number of them like, a performance fabric. And again, I think you were talking about 50% of pilots being new as of 2016. That leaves, 50% of pilots who were there before and kind of the veterans. And so we're looking, and this is, help of pilots. We're looking into a cotton-based shirt. That's what I'm wearing right now. And so it's a stretch cotton, and it's like, hey, some pilot, and one of the bits of feedback we've heard, and sorry, I don't mean to leave the question that you've had, is that the shirts are thin. And I mean, that was intentional. And it's this weird balancing act where it's like, okay, we want it to be as lightweight as possible so that it's not heavy. But then kind of the trade-off is, okay, then the fabric has to be thin. And so, I mean, you can see undershirts and it's like, okay, we're still working on how to really help with the opacity, or I guess transparency, whichever way you want to look at it. But for pilots who really care about that and aren't willing to trade off, it's like, hey, what if we do a more natural fabric as a base, and let's launch there. But anyway, sorry, that was tangential, I know.
No, it's great.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we'll go wherever the puck goes. I think that's what Wayne Gretzky's thing. It's like, and if the puck is going to this spot, it's like we want to be there. And so we had enough of these pilots come in. It's like, you know what, we're going to try. We can come out. We don't need to come out with tons. Let's come out with, I think we launched with 18,000 shirts. So a full container. And many pilots on here have probably flown some of our flight shirts. When we were selling really quickly, we'd have to air freight them from overseas. So thank you to whoever flies those cargo planes. But yeah, we said, okay, there's probably enough of an opportunity. Let's take a swing at it. And we said, yep, let's lean with video. It's one thing to tell pilots, like we have this Nike dry fit dress. We have this Nike dry fit uniform, versus showing it. Because I think when you think about it, it's like, okay, it'll look schlubby. It's not going to look like a proper uniform. Where, hey, let's go and show it. And so the same people that we have used to make kind of fun videos for And Caller, it's like, hey, let's go do this for flight. But unlike And Caller, we're not the customer, so we're going to have to call at least 50 potential customers and say, can you help us write this script? And so, so I wish that I could take credit for the actual writing, but most of it was inspired by actual pilots. Where, and the large epaulets. It's funny. We call those kind of Easter eggs, where we'll usually plant those in our videos just to get people to engage. Where it's like, oh, then you quickly sift and you can see who are real pilots, because we got dozens and dozens of comments. They're saying, are those a joke? Where did he get those? And it's like, well, it is a joke. And we just mostly wanted you to comment and like notice it. We wanted it to pop out to you.
I can't tell you how many people have mentioned that.
Yep.
So smart.
Yeah. And it's intentional. It's like, okay, can you get something, even if it's like potentially something negative, can you get something to just stick in? Because if you're not memorable, then what's the point? So that was one of the points of, trying to be memorable. And then a lot of the feedback we heard, you were talking about the paint, and I'm glad that it worked. You were talking about the paint getting on your shirt. You were talking about how you throw your shirt in the dryer. My experience is the exact same as yours. That's what I did for my wedding day. You throw it in the dryer with a wet towel or sock or whatever. And anyway, and then it comes out looking nice and crisp, but you have to do it pretty immediately. But yeah, the long story short, we got feedback, we thought just from pilots, but it turns out pilots' spouses, specifically wives, because we're just launching with men's shirts, were very opinionated about their partner's uniform. And so that's why we touched on that. But yeah, a lot of the jokes, it's like, hey, like what are the actual pain points pilots are feeling? Can you tell us? And then how do we turn that into a funny video? And we were shocked how quickly those circulated. I will say we thought it would be a pretty soft launch for flight. And then the different airline Facebook groups, the different airline Facebook groups, a couple pilots saw it and shared it. And then, kind of had this viral moment in April and May. And we seriously under-ordered. So talking about supply chain issues, where we were like, hey, we're never going to be like this, this other brand for pilot uniforms. But we sold 18,000 shirts in a matter of days when we thought it would be like 6 months. So then we had to be back to the drawing board, and it's all iterative, where we learn. And so if you see and it was the same with And Caller, the first 90 days of reviews, are always going to be the lowest because it's a completely new fabric to new groups who have specific like requirements. And so if you look at our like last 6 months of reviews versus the first 6 months of reviews, it's like, oh, it's night and day now that we've been able to really clean up just the small technical things. So it's been amazing. It's been a great ride.
I will say one of the things I do, my job is not just safety in flying, but it's also customer service. And I have 300 people that I'm responsible for. And I take that customer service aspect of this very seriously, because when you read reviews of airlines, it's all complaining. It's all, this didn't go well, this didn't go well, that didn't go well. And one of the things I do, I make it a point before I go fly to always make an announcement at the gate to the passengers before we even get on, when everybody, before they're even like can cross their arms and be angry about something. And but I'm always straightforward with them, and I let them know kind of what we're doing. But then I say, hey, the word of the day is grace. If you can give my flight attendants a little bit of grace, because there's a lot more of you than there are of them, and we can all work together as a team. And I think that really disarms people. And I guess my point is, when you guys get in front of a problem, like, hey, our shipping, like we can't, the demand is so strong right now, we are having problems filling orders, and just please, give us some grace, give us a little bit of time. I apologize. And being in front of that, like, people understand you're human, and you're not some big box store robot. And I think that's really important. And that's why I love the conversation, and it's easy to get feedback. And the people that do your customer service are generous and kind and are always nice. And I love that.
I need to clip that. We just send that out with every order. Hey, please give us some grace.
Give us some grace. Seriously. That's all it is.
I love that. Yeah. I will say, not that we have favorites, but in our flight crew, our customer service are our favorite. We call them the dream team. You get an auto response immediately, just letting you know, hey, we've received. Because I think the worst thing, and you were kind of alluding to this and touched on this earlier, is not necessarily a mistake. It's when you don't even know that the mistake is being addressed or like recognized.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is, if a customer, we didn't have this at first, and pilots would email in and be like, hey, I'm wondering if you got my email. So now we have an auto response that says, hey, the dream team is on it. We've received it. We're going to try to respond to it within 24 hours. But just letting you know we've got it. And it's like, again, to your point, now that people know it's coming, they're so much better. And I will say pilots clearly are in a service industry because they're very patient and kind with us, where it's like clearly they've been on the other side. You're talking about flying whole planes of people every day who have unique personalities. And I think that's made pilots an amazing customer group for us, where it's like, hey, look, I get it. I'm announcing this to 300 people every day, just like you are. But here's just my points of feedback that I think can help improve. And that's typically the dialogue we have. And it's like, it's a breath of fresh air, where it's been this awesome partnership. And that's the hope, to keep building that way until we outfit. You talked about a few of your friends. It's like, hey, let's outfit every friend with the exact shirt that they need. And let's build this together as a real community rather than a product.
Absolutely. I love that. And you talk about partnership. We are starting a partnership, and that to me is so exciting. And so I want to tell the listener, the pilot that is participates in this podcast, that Flight and Spitfire are aligning, and we are so certain that the Flight pilot shirt is such a great pilot shirt that we have decided to link up. And you and I had a conversation with Bill and Tron the other day, and Mackenzie, you're awesome, Mackenzie, about the things that we think are important in this world, and the fact that we're basically disruptors, right? We are there to shake up this industry, and you are also shaking up the pilot uniform industry, and we want to celebrate that. And so you are going to see Spitfire in flight. If you come to the hiring conventions, some of the hiring conventions we will be linking up with. We will be kind of co-branding things together, and it's very exciting. You guys have given us a great opportunity to work together and be with your team. And also, like you said it, you're not a pilot. You want to learn what the pilots do. You want to learn how we are, how we think, and you want to be present. And that's where it is, like in person, while we are like our most nervous, because we want to wear a pilot uniform for the rest of our careers. And that's where we're going to see it. So I'm excited about this, man.
Oh, I am too. And we appreciate you letting us, join the journey and the ride. It all comes back to that wanting to be authentically pilot and not artificially pilot. And that's where it just seemed like it made total sense with the Spitfire team, with you and your crew, where it's like, hey, we don't understand this, but what events can and should we be at to be able to show appreciation to all of these new and aspiring pilots? And it's like, hey, again, I think pilots are probably some of the most underappreciated people on the planet. And I'm not just saying that because it's a pilot podcast. I think the entire aviation industry as a whole, where, as a consumer or a passenger or a flyer, it's, oh man, my flight is delayed by 28 minutes. How could they? But then you think about all the logistics that go into it. It's like, oh, that crew just flew from Atlanta to here and get everyone off the plane, get the bags off the plane, get the new bags on the plane. Yeah, and I know it's much more technical than that, but it's like, it's this incredible thing, and somehow I'm still going to get transported to the place that I want within 30 minutes of the original. And that's just a percentage, where most of them are on time, I guess, depending on the airline. But it's like, it's this amazing thing, and we wanted to have an extension of our team. And so that's the way we view, Spitfire and you, where it's not a classic, hey, here's a sponsorship to talk about us. Where it's like, hey, how can you and us together appreciate pilots more? And like, let's go pick up the tab for food and for drinks at different conferences, and it's the right conferences. And then it's like, hey, I'd thrown out to you. It's like, hey, and again, this is me spitballing, and this is the idea of flight, where it's like, hey, we're going to throw ideas at you. You tell if it's a good idea or bad idea, or where we should deploy resources. Because like, let's do a flight scholarship, and a flight and Spitfire scholarship where, hey, let's pay for some awesome new pilot to fly people, to learn, I guess, how to fly people across the globe. And so that's where we want to. And I think this is the thing that's gotten us most excited about flight this year. It's like, hey, how do we move past one-way commerce where it's me telling Nick to buy? And it's like, hey, let's just have two-way, like a friendship with the consumer. It's like, if you help us build a better brand, we can get you better products, but we can also appreciate you more. And it's like, it's this spiraling staircase upwards is the way we're envisioning it. And we think Spitfire is going to be really foundational to that.
I love it. We're excited about it. We go to the conferences to make sure people know that we give back. We're not there selling, and it's lovely and it's beautiful, and it's an opportunity to, there are sales made, but we are not there trying to push things. We're trying to give and trying to support and trying to uplift the entire community. And that's, your heart is there too. And that's just the fun part of it. And it's just going to be, it'll be a great year. It'll be a great beginning. And so I'm thankful for that. And I know there's going to be a lot of new products coming out, and a lot of interesting aspects. And so a couple things. If people are interested in learning about the uniforms, where do we find you?
I'll create one with like a Nick 20 discount or Spitfire something discount.
We have it already. Spitfire 20 is the discount.
Oh, okay. I forget what I said. Clearly, I know nothing.
We've got it.
Spitfire 20 discount. But you can find it at flightuniforms.com or Flight Uniform singular. We bought both because people were going to both websites, Flight Uniforms or flightuniform.com. Or, this isn't to muddy the waters. We thought it could be fun to have a video one day of like different pilots from different airlines like fighting, almost like the old FedEx and UPS ads. And so we also bought one called flight.com. We bought that URL. And the idea is you have a bunch of pilots circling around like a Southwest and United pilot, and they're shouting flight, flight, flight.
Yes.
But flightuniform.com or flight.com.
My mind immediately goes to Anchorman. And
so that was a little bit of the inspiration. Yep, Anchorman.
I cannot wait for this.
Or face. Yeah.
Oh man, it's gonna be a great video. It doesn't take much to entertain me, friends.
And the hope is, if you ever have good ideas for funny ads and content, message Nick, or Nick, you can tell us things that you think would be funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there a way to give feedback if I already wear the shirt and I want to give some feedback other than, they can certainly reach out to me and I can certainly pass it along. Is there another way?
Yep. That's the thing. We want to have as many channels as possible. You can leave a review on the website. And like Nick said, we actually read all of those and respond to those. You can email us at the customers, contact us on the website. And excuse me, my daughter just loves pilots, and she's shouting that in her unintelligible toddler language. Or you can also email me at ben@flightuniform.com, and I will respond to each of those. If you've got any and all feedback, whether it's positive, negative, or fun ideas that we could do, we're here for it because we're planning on being here for the long haul.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to have this new friendship with you and with Spitfire and Flight and Caller, all of it together. It's fantastic. It's exciting. And so for the pilot, go and check it out. Come see us at the conventions. We'll be there with the flight team and just having a lot of fun together. So Ben Perkins, thank you so much for spending time with me and with the pilot that's listening. And I hope you have an awesome day. And I hope you sell all your uniforms and you have to make another announcement that we're like, we're back ordered.
Give us some grace.
Give us some grace.
I appreciate you, Nick. Happy birthday to Kate. Go enjoy your 10th birthday. And it was a pleasure being with you. And I'm excited to meet you in person at each one of these conferences.
This is important. Before you go, you need to know that 2024 is going to be unbelievably competitive in the world of pilot hiring, and you need to make sure that you separate yourself from the herd. The only way that you can guarantee that you'll land your dream job is by partnering with Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting. We are the only choice for application review and interview prep. We are the partners that you've been looking for from start to finish, and it's never too early to be part of our community. Just go over to my website, spitfireelite.com, and use the coupon code R4P to save yourself 10% on all of our services. Again, that's the letter R, the number 4, and the letter P to save 10%. So go out there and slay your interviews.